What's going on, everybody? Back again for another post-game overreaction show. I'm Paul Meharry, joined by Ben Bachman of UGAsports.com, the POS show, the best show around for your overreaction takes after a big game, and Georgia had just that. Ben, 37-0. I don't know if anybody expected a shutout. Georgia looked dominant in the first quarter. Second quarter kind of took their foot off the gas. Then they established the run really heavy. Overall thoughts of the game, Ben, while we get some folks trickling in here.
First off, I'm going to give a shout-out to you because I think when I was looking at the score predictions, I think you had Georgia winning by the most among everybody. I think 32, so you were closest on your predictions. So
there we go.
I was closest last week. I think you were closest this week. First thing I'll say is that was kind of a bizarre game just because didn't think – would people really expect Georgia to throw the ball 11 times? And I mean, 3 of those are late in the game where it's just screw it. We're just going to throw a little dink pass because we think we got them because they're loading the box. That was just the weakness of Georgia we had going into the game was the run game. And that was the strength of today. Yeah. If Georgia gets JT Daniels healthy and their run game can keep up, they have no holes on their team. This is Georgia's best opportunity to make a run at this because especially if JT and George Pickens can be healthy, they have no holes. This is the first time I haven't seen a hole in Georgia's team, period. And the secondary, I will say one quick note. In my opinion, the player of the day or the underrated player of the day was Darian Kendrick because he just locked up.
Yeah, he did.
I don't think he allowed a catch.
Let's see.
Traylon Burks, I think he had 3 yards or something.
Yeah, he had 3 catches for 10 yards. I mean, he was targeted 70 times. He was targeted 7 times. And it says he had 4 drops. Wow.
Well, I don't know how they count the offensive PI. Yeah. They just don't count that at all as registered. But he had an offensive PI, which otherwise I think Kendrick could have made a play on the ball to make a pick potentially. He played lights out. He had that big tackle in the backfield. I think it was him. And then on offense, James Cook, because the O-line was the player of the day. But James Cook on offense, I thought he had as good of a game as I've ever seen him play.
One thing we'll touch on this, guys. The show runs for about 2 hours, so we're going to touch on everything. We want as many topics and comments and things from you guys over in the YouTube world or Facebook. We'll put them up on the screen. We want to talk about that with you guys. Also, there's a link to join the conversation with us. You can come on live, whether you're walking back to your tailgate, whether you're in your man cave. You can come on live on our YouTube channel here with Ben and I. Roddy Nabolsi will be joining us soon. Trent Smallwood. I've got to run in about 30 minutes. I've got a wedding to go to. Somebody scheduled a wedding on a football weekend, but we did get to watch the Dawgs, so the wedding doesn't start till 5. Hopefully we'll make it in time. But anyways, the rest of the guys will take you the rest of the way home. Did we see Tyke Smith today, Ben? I don't remember.
I saw Brittany had a really good day. I thought he was covering Burks a lot. That was bizarre to me because I thought it was all going to be Kendrick or Ringo, but I saw Brittany out there on the field a ton. I don't know if we saw Tyke or not.
Yeah, I don't see Tyke registered on the stat line. Not to say he didn't play. We'll figure that out a little later.
I know Darnell played a significant amount.
I was going to say one guy that did come back, Ben, was Darnell Washington. Excuse me. He did not catch a pass, but he was in there heavily. Ben, in terms of blocking. So good sign there, I assume, yeah?
Yeah. I think, Darnell, I've kind of said this to people. I was talking last night to people about this game. I think some people were more nervous than others about this game. I said one thing that's going to help is Darnell in the run game because I compared it to when you look at Kyle Pitts last year with Florida. Well, you knew Florida was a pass team last year, but when Kyle Pitts was out there, it was likely a pass. It was like a 90% chance. Darnell's such a dominant blocker, and you know how big of a threat he is over the middle, and especially in the red zone, what type of threat he could be. That when you put Darnell out there, I mean, it makes the defense I think it throws the defense off because he's the type of guy who can make really good blocks and he'll help the run game, and then he adds to that pass game a lot. He, to me, is huge for the Georgia team going forward. And it may not even be on the stat sheet because his blocking is to me as key as anything, which I know Georgia fans might not want to hear that. He can be a first-round type pick with his receiving, but his run blocking is as good as any tight end I've seen in college football, and that's going to be really important for Georgia's run game moving forward.
Oh, we got Sydney Moore said, Are you watching the show on your phone, Ben? I think I have an echo. No,
I'm not.
Okay, my bad. She said Razorback ribs are tasty and delicious. And then let's see. Eric M says crowd was elite until the start of the fourth quarter. Then it thinned out like an old man's hair. It did, but I mean, it's 37-0. They were just running the ball. Folks wanted to get back to their tailgate. I'm going to bring in Dayne Young. Ben, he was over there with Coach Don and Roddy.
This is the man with the lowest prediction, I think.
Oh, did he have the lowest prediction?
I think he had 20. Was 28-16 you had, Dayne? No, I think Roddy said by 10, I think. I could be wrong.
Mine was a little, it was like 12, something like that. I mean, look, I thought Arkansas would move the ball more. I was surprised, not at the quality of Georgia's defense, but Arkansas has just been a team that has been able to have a push up front against most teams, and Georgia just went and kicked their ass. I mean, that was rough. That was as impressive of a win. I mean, that's more impressive than Clemson. If Georgia plays like that all year, then you get to Atlanta undefeated, and you got a good shot there, and that's all you can ask for.
So here's the question, Dayne, I guess that a lot of folks will have. I know that I'm thinking it. Was Arkansas overrated? Is Georgia better than we think? Was it a mixture of both? Or what's going to be the national storyline, I guess, on Monday about these Dogs when they start talking about it on SEC Network at 11:30 at night? What's going to be that talk?
I mean, I think by the end of the season, when we have more information on Arkansas, we're probably not going to think that Arkansas is a top 10 team. But I do think that we'll think that Arkansas is a top 25 team. And if you beat a team like that this way, that's still impressive as hell. So, I think Georgia's dominance is the story. And there's you have to give credit to Arkansas for beating good teams in Texas A&M and Texas. But Georgia's not that. Georgia's defense dominated it. But then also, look, Georgia got some good breaks early, and that's because Georgia kind of created those breaks. When Arkansas is not a team that can come from behind. If Arkansas gets behind by 14 or 20 against anyone, it's going to be a tough game because they don't score quickly. They're going to be a team that takes the deep shots, but only when the run game's established, and Georgia shut that down.
Looks like Georgia, in terms of the quick stats I'm looking at here, in terms of big plays, Dayne, and I think a lot of people were worried about this Georgia rushing attack. Looks like they had 7 big plays. So big plays on this stat is considered yards gained over 10. They had 7 of those rushed for 99 yards. So they had 7 rushing plays, rushed for 10 or more yards. I don't think we've seen that all season. Probably, I don't want to put my foot in my mouth, but maybe throughout all 4 games, we haven't seen 7 plays over 10 yards. Was that just the game plan coming in, you think? And Ben, you can harp in at any moment as well after Dayne too.
It's the mark of a championship team is that you can put the hammer down when you need to. And Georgia in this game plan against Arkansas was able to do that. And what I'm curious about, I think we can all project how this will work for the season. We've seen Georgia pass it around the field against a team like UAB. We've seen the run game win when it has to, whether that's the fourth quarter against Clemson or the entire game against Arkansas. But I start thinking about when both of those things are possible, what that means for recruits that watch this. Because if you're a receiver at that UAB game, you're like, whoa, okay, right, they do this. Right. But then if you're one of these offensive linemen or if you're one of the running backs checking out the Arkansas game today, you're like, oh, yeah, I could get used to this. So you have to be able to do both in college football now if you want to be a champion.
Yeah, I was going to say balance. If JT's healthy, this is balance of an offense I've seen, because in years past, it was just like when they had Jake Fromm, it was a really efficient passing game. It wasn't anything explosive. I think with JT healthy, and if they get Pickens back and Arian Smith and some of those guys back, they're going to have an explosive pass game downfield. And I think the run game, now you have to equate for that again, because previous weeks, the short yardage run game was the problem. I think because when it was obvious, like 3rd and 2, 3rd and 1, 2nd and 1, they struggled with that. But today they got it like 9 times out of 10. And that was key, in my opinion.
And then even though with having Stetson in there, he and JT just do different things, right? They do different things better than the other one. Stetson's mobility is an asset and one that Todd Monken, I think, uses in a smart way.
But, Paul,
Guys,
I'll say on Arkansas, though, they need to switch out of a 3-3-5 if they're being run on. I mean, you cannot sit in a 3-3-5 when you're being run on, because if Georgia gets to the second level, it's guaranteed 6-7 yards. It's guaranteed there if Georgia's O-line gets to the second level. They have to change that.
Dayne, stay with us. It's about to get real weird. Bubba's calling in, okay? Bubba's calling in. Hey, Bubba, you're on with us, man. Are you pumped up right now? What's going on?
Oh, boy, I'm pumped up today. I want to know, did Georgia play anybody today?
I don't think
so. That's all I've been hearing all season is Georgia don't play anybody. We just took the number 18 behind the woodshed and just played old school football and shoved the ball down their throat. You understand that? Down their throat.
Bubba, that was the 8th ranked team in the nation, Bubba.
Everybody's going to say this week, Georgia didn't play anybody. I'm telling you, Florida better watch out. This dog team, I said 21 points last time. Dogs winning by 24. You mark it down. Dogs by 24. Do you see Jalen Carter on that goal line? That fullback on that goal line. He just mollywopped 3 people.
He caught 3 bodies, man. That's a felony in most states, Bubba, when you catch 3 bodies.
How does he only go up by 3 points? That's the real question, Paul. You're going for 21 to 24?
24 points. Georgia on top. Dogs on top, baby. This dog team, this is the junkyard. Hey, I don't want to hear that defense. I want to hear y'all call them the junkyard dogs from now on. And if there's a watch-along party, Bubba needs to be in there for the Florida game. I guarantee you that.
Well, Bubba, I'm a bit concerned because, I made this, when we started seeing the students vacate, I was like, that's a long time for downtown Athens to be open tonight. Oh. So, are you going to be all right with the amount of daylight left in this?
I'm turning to those liquor drinks right now. I'm ready to go, son. Bubba is ready to go. Dogs on top. Hey, next week I guess we play Auburn. I mean, they might not even show up. Dogs still haven't played anybody all year. I guess I'll just hang up and listen.
Bubba, as always, man, we appreciate you, brother.
See you, man.
You know what's crazy is that Auburn game could be another noon kickoff. We don't know yet. That CBS has to decide what it wants to do.
CBS, there's no way. What are they matching?
If Ole Miss beats Alabama,
Auburn beats LSU, it's got to be 3:30.
But if Ole Miss beats Alabama,
but they don't want to play. They don't want this Arkansas team, man. They don't want this Arkansas team. I'm going Georgia 3:30. CBS
you might want the Arkansas team more than you want Auburn if Auburn loses at LSU.
True. But this could if TJ Finley wins, going back to LSU,
bro, you can stop that. I mean, he might, but Auburn sucks in Baton Rouge, even with good teams. And the team
TJ Finley versus Max Johnson is just gonna be hysterical to watch. I'm sorry, that's just gonna be funny to watch.
Well, I just have to turn to Bo Nix to save the game, or at least
Brooks killed them last year. I mean, LSU's defense still is pretty bad. They have 2 really talented corners. I think Stingley's out, but they have so many busted coverages. LSU.
Llama, who ragged on Roddy last week, so I'm going to put every comment that he puts in here up on the screen. Make sure he gets as much screen time as possible. Said the offensive line played elite today. Credit to Matt Luke. Yeah. I mean, I don't know what else to say. They looked dominant. There was a couple of plays, Sawyer looked like he was out of place a little bit, missed a couple blocks. But overall, man, I mean, Georgia had a mission in mind right here, right? They got out early. They had the special teams touchdown, which Dan Jackson flew in on, just basically untouched. They didn't even touch the punter on that, which is baffling to me. Normally, when you block the kick, that you're touching the punter in some way. The punter was still standing after he kicked it, which was crazy.
What do you think happened on that play? Because I looked at it and I'm like, is Arkansas just looking at him and be like, oh, we ain't got to worry about that guy? He flew in there.
Yeah, I don't think that they thought he was coming. When they replayed it, I watched it. I think they replayed it like 2 or 3 times. Dan Jackson timed it perfectly for one. He absolutely timed it perfectly. And then they didn't shift over the coverage. I don't think they thought he was coming. So, but yeah, offensive line, Dayne, before we let you go, I know you got to get back home. Offensive line to me looked dominant. Like I said, Georgia did what they want to do. They got up early, they got up quick, and then they milked the clock. They still won 37-0. they probably could have gone for more. But what we saw was, and what fans have been hankering for a long time, since the season started, was a consistent run game, something to get behind, to where, oh man, Georgia's been so used to this, ground and pound system. Todd Monken plays it a little differently. Todd Monken showed you today, hey, we can still go back to that ground and pound, guys. Don't get it twisted. We've got guys that can do that. Speaking of, James Cook went for 87. Zamir went for 68 and 2 touchdowns. McIntosh went for 57. Milton went for 48 and got his first touchdown. Overall, 273 yards on the ground for a 4.8 average.
Yeah, and I think you can give credit to the entire offensive line just as a unit, but in particular, I think Cedric Van Pran deserves quite a shout out for multiple reasons. One,
he was the best of the day.
Responsibilities of calling out the different coverages and making sure people are doing what they like. The center has a lot to do with that. Stetson Bennett has something to do with that as well. So credit to both of those. But then just in terms of mauling people up front and opening up some lanes. I mean, Ben, you were talking about the 3-man front. It turned into a 2-man front when Cedric, got his man right off the ball. So, I mean, it was quite a game for such a young center. And I think that's very promising for Georgia.
They showed a stat real quick, Dayne, before you go, and then I promise we'll let you go. They showed a stat during the game where the offensive line, how many starts they've had. The highest guys were Schaefer and Sawyer, I think, with both 17, if I'm not mistaken. And then one guy with 4, one guy with 5. This line doesn't have as much experience as it looks like it does, though. That's what's crazy to me. Matt Luke's really got these guys playing good ball.
Yeah, and in previous weeks I've called out Warren McClendon. I saw a couple plays that weren't as clean from him. Yeah. Even Jamari Sawyer had a couple that. I mean, I think the interior lineman really dominated this game, and I'll have to rewatch to see if if the tackles. I'm not saying they were bad, but I'm just saying I saw a couple of times where they probably could have been in slightly better position.
Well, this is the overreaction show, Dayne. We overreact before we go back and watch it the second time.
Here's another overreaction for you then, and I think it was something we all predicted. When Darnell Washington is in there. Holy crap. Even just in terms of him clogging space, even if he's not putting on the best block, it's a different looking offense when you have him and Bowers in there together doing their thing.
Bowers had a nice block on the Zamir touchdown. That was a nice block.
Yeah, that was I was just about to bring that up. We got some all right, Dayne, we're going to let you go, man. Thank you so much for hopping on. Roddy's already left, right? Because he's got to take over for me.
He is somewhere between here and then he's got to go through those deer that live out near his house, and then he'll be on here.
All right, Dayne. Well, take it easy, man. Have a safe trip home, and we'll see you next week, guys. If you don't watch along with the Watch Along crew, I don't know what you're doing. You got to go watch along with those guys. Llama, again, Darnell is a bad man. Chad Caleheel says, happy, happy, happy. That's a wild profile picture, Chad. Ben just left me. All right, here we go.
Yeah, hold on. Some cable just popped out.
Okay, well, we can still hear you. Joshua Hobbs says, congrats. You're the best. He's talking about those Georgia Bulldogs, guys. And Lloyd Dog coming in says, Bama is terrible at tackling. What's that score over there? Let's look that up while it's just me here. And then decided, he didn't want to do the show anymore. It's still 0-0, guys, if you're watching, going home in your cars or heading back to your tailgates. Still 0-0 Alabama, Ole Miss. Looks like Ole Miss has the ball 4th and 3 on Alabama 35. Curious what they're going to do here. Let's see. Llama says, I love what the watch along, but I always watch it on tape delay on Sunday. Hey, man, as long as you watch it. He likes to rewind it and can't stay synced. I hear you. Ole Miss is driving, Lloyd Dog says. But back to the topic at hand, guys. 37-0. Hey, there you are, Ben. You okay? Did you go eat some dinner?
Yeah, and I got the college shirt on today for my man Paul. Apparently that's a rule. It's the Paul rule.
I appreciate it. Guys, on the defensive side of the ball, 4 sacks. 4 sacks. 1.5 from Wyatt, 1.5 from Nakobe Dean, 1 from Adam Anderson, and that'll get you to 4. My math's terrible.
Well, Paul, I actually want to touch up on that real quick. I think teams are getting the ball out quick now because they're like, if we hold the ball, Georgia's going to get there at some point. It's bound to happen. You're not going to hold up. Alabama's offensive line last year might be the only unit of the last 2 years on the offensive line that might be able to hold up in the pass game long enough to block Georgia from time to time. It just – you look at what they were doing. They were doing a lot of swing passes, trying to do a little quick passes in the flats. and that's all they could do for completions. I don't. What was their biggest completion down the field? I think they had like a 14-yard one,
Arkansas,
on like 3rd and 32 that they completed.
Arkansas receiving, let's see, longest was 22 yards. It was that to their running back, where Brinney missed the tackle, and then 2 other guys missed the tackle. It was 22 yards.
They didn't throw anything downfield.
No.
And that's what people said. If you want to score on Georgia, you have to hit them over the top. And they didn't have the time, and they weren't getting open. Neither was happening. So that was just as dominant of a defensive performance as I've seen. And I don't think Georgia forced a turnover unless you count the block punt.
No, they did. Yeah, well, I mean, if you count the block punt. Let's see here. I'm going to try to pull in my screen. Oh, Blaine Gilmer's with me. Never mind. If I can get his picture. There he goes. Blaine's with us. Blaine is in the photog room, looks like, down underneath the bowels of Sanford Stadium. You were on the field.
I'll miss Alabama on over here.
Yeah, man. So Blaine Gilmer is joining us, guys. If you guys are not already watching UGA Sports Rumors versus Facts on Monday nights, you're missing out on all the Georgia recruiting. Tons of Georgia recruits in attendance, Blaine. You want to kind of give us an overview of that? Because this game, 37-0, we know what happened there. A lot of recruits in town, though.
Yeah, a lot of guys committed elsewhere. You had Michael Williams was there, USC commit, Kojo Antwi, Travis Hunter was there, Florida State commit. A lot of guys did. Quayshawn Sapp, another Florida State commit. A lot of Florida State commits all around the country.
Wow.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, Florida State's had an elite season so far.
Blaine, your connection is pretty terrible, to be honest with you, but we can hear you. So if, I know that Wi-Fi down there is not the best. But
guys, let me turn the camera off, and I'll just let you. Can you hear me though?
There we go. Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, it's better. I was gonna say.
So can you go over again who you saw in the crowd, just so if anybody missed it when you were kind of going in and out, who'd you see?
Mike USC commit, of course, there, and you Kojo Antwi, the Ohio State commit, Julian Humphrey commit, Travis Hunter, Sean Sappers.
All right, I'm gonna remove Blaine from the stream because it just sounded really bad. But
I will say,
go ahead, Ben. You're on recruiting.
Travis Hunter from Florida State, who many know is the number 1 player in the country. He also brought up Kojo Antwi, the top receiver in the state, committed to Ohio State. Michael Williams, arguably top D lineman in state, committed to USC. Quayshawn Sapp, an offensive lineman, committed to Florida State. Ali Ba, who's also committed to Florida State, no lineman. So at least like 5 or 6. Oh, Julian Humphrey committed to Florida. It's on an official. So a lot of guys, Deion Bowie. So it's like 7 or 8 guys in town that are committed elsewhere who are highly rated prospects in the 2022 class.
And I know Kirby was asked about this, and it makes sense. They said, "Hey, look, Ron John says, go Dogs," and Bonnie's watching from Key West, baby. All right. A lot of folks asked. Well, one guy in particular asked Kirby about this. Said, "What about recruiting for noon kickoffs, especially with college game day coming, a big atmosphere?" And what Kirby basically said was, "Look, it hurts in some aspects because we can't bring those guys in that have to travel super early in the morning to get to the games. But the guys that do make it, we get to spend a lot more time with those prospects." And I can guarantee you, Kirby's finishing up his press conference right now. He's going to go. He's already talked to the team. He's going to his head is going straight to recruiting. He's got a lot of big time targets in the building right now, Ben. And not saying it's flip season, but there's some guys there. I still have your list over here, Ben. Let me see. Still got your list. Best DB class ever at UGA.
Yeah. If they get Travis Hunter, that's instantly best DB class ever. Are you kidding me? He's the highest rated DB ever out of high school.
You didn't have Travis Hunter on there. You had a couple guys on there. But I still have it pinned up, just so you know. I still have it pinned up just for you.
Well, we're going to have to do some research because I said it's going to be by the rankings. We're never going to be able to tell on the field until years down the line. I don't know if I'm going to predict that, but in terms of rankings, I think if they link Kamari Wilson and just one other guy, it's for sure the best ever. And I think Georgia leads for Kamari, and we know they're going to add at least another 1 or 2 really good ones. So I think it's set in stone. I don't think it's really that bold a prediction.
Ron John says, "I hate noon kickoffs." What's your thoughts on them, Ben? I'm going to put it back up here.
I think it's a mix of two things. Like I said, Kirby said one thing. The one positive thing is you get to talk to the coaching staff more. I think that's one big plus. But I think that the negative is that night game atmospheres, when they have the light show and they're playing Power by Kanye, those kids are going nuts and they love it. I feel like that's the signature at this point. It's like the end of the third quarter and they have to play some Kanye and they have the red light show on. Like that's like now the signature with the lights. I just think that kids love that. And the atmosphere goes crazy. And I think that the atmosphere is better at night. But the coaches, the relationships, just being able to see the on field, getting a good reaction from the fans, I think it's enough. I think you would prefer a night game, but I think if you look good on the field and, the coaches are hitting it off with the recruits, you take it. This is a big game, honestly. And this is as good of a recruiting weekend I've seen since that Notre Dame game a couple years back. I look, LT Overton's in town, Bear Alexander, James Smith is the top 10 players at D lineman. They have like every top D lineman in the country minus Walter Nolan's in town this weekend, who's going to be in town soon, I believe. So that's just, I've never seen one position group so loaded. Now, everybody factoring Travis Hunter, every top defensive recruit in the country is basically in town. Georgia has to reload there for the future, and they have like all of them in town. All the in-state kids in 2023 and 2022 across classes are in town. It's just as big a weekend as I've seen on the recruiting front.
Loy asks, how many tackles for loss? According to my stat book, which is not technically official yet, we haven't got the official one, but normally this is correct. Well, it looks like 7. 1.5 for Wyatt, 1.5 for Anderson. Tyndall had 1. Nakobe had 2. Kendrick had 1, and that's how you get to 7, according to UGA's stat broadcast math. Blaine Gilmer's back with us. Looks like he's on the field. Blaine.
Oh, that's on the field.
Yeah, I'm
trying. Is this
trying.
getting a better connection?
Hey, I'm trying to. Is the connection better?
Oh yeah, a lot better. On the field. Well, Ben just stole your thunder because he talked about all the recruiting news. So we can flip it back to you and do a little team news since you got to watch the game a little bit. Just a dominant performance from Georgia, right? All over the field.
Yeah, I mean, Georgia didn't have to break a sweat, really. I mean, you just see the physical dominance and the overall just absolute, the depth that's there that other teams don't have. And it just rolls in time after time. So that's what you have going on with Georgia.
You just brought me to that song, Ben. You remember that? You might be too young, Ben. That time after time.
I know what you're talking about.
Blaine knows it. Ben's like, I have no idea.
No, because we were too busy talking about Kanye a few minutes ago. So now
we were.
It's throwing me off.
So we were talking about, and I want to get your opinion on this, Blaine, because Kirby said there's some pros and cons to a noon kickoff, especially having some big-time recruits in the building, especially like he did today. What is your take? Would you rather you have the big-time recruits in for the 7:30 night game? They can, like Ben said, listen to Power by Kanye before the fourth quarter, have the light show, have the phones going, light up Sanford? Or would you rather have that 12 o'clock? If you were the head coach, would you rather have that 12 o'clock to where afterwards, right now, Kirby just got done with his press conference, he can go talk with those guys. Those guys can hang out for as long as they want tonight. With Kirby, if you're the head coach, which way would you rather have it?
I think it depends on what kid you're recruiting, right? Because if you know it, like literally they go so in detailed on these kids' backgrounds and get to know them and what makes them tick and things like that. So if you've got a guy who is all about that atmosphere and the bright lights and stuff like that, you want that 7:30 kick. But if you've got some guys who are all about the relationships with the coaches and just building kind of that family type feel, this 12 o'clock kick is perfect, right? Because you get to, like you said, spend all that extra time, and Georgia's gonna have an opportunity here to make sure they can really invest in some of these guys after the game here.
And that makes a lot of sense, Ben. It depends on the relationship you have with the kid, just like Blaine said, whether they're more about relationships or they want to see that atmosphere. Yeah. And you kind of pick and choose where you slot these kids in to come and watch the game. 37-0, though, Blaine. You had a lot of shots of recruits over on UGAsports.com. You got a super cool background. You got the best background out of all of us. A lot of folks are saying they hate noon kickoffs, but for you, Blaine, and for me, guys like us, you get to leave out of Sanford here in just a little while instead of being there till 2 a.m. I've been there. I've done that.
Yeah.
So noon kickoffs are all right by me.
No, it's all right by me, too. Now we get to go watch Ole Miss and Alabama play. I think Ole Miss just got stopped on a 4th down. They were driving down to Alabama's throat, got stopped on a 4th down down there. So we'll see what happens in that one. But Georgia looked like the number 1 team in the country today to me.
All right. Well, there's Blaine Gilmer, guys. We're going to let you go, Blaine. Have fun for the rest of your day. Enjoy your safe travels back up the road. And Dawgs win 37-0. A lot of big recruits. Blaine, Ben, Jed,
See you
May, they'll
guys.
all have – see you, man. Ben, Trent, Jed, and Blaine, they'll have all the recruits breaking down their interactions with the coaches over on UGAsports.com a little later, probably tomorrow or Monday, to see what these guys really thought of the game. 37-0 again, Ben. Georgia scored. I want to kind of break down Georgia's scoring here because it got a little wild. Like you said, it felt weird.
Yeah,
Georgia was dominant, right? They had the 9-play, 75-yard drive to start the game off with the Zeus touchdown to finish it. Then they had a 10-play, 56 drive for 56-yard drive for 4 minutes, 44 seconds. We still got 4.5 minutes left in the first. Then they blocked the punt for a touchdown, so it's 21-0. And then they go kind of radio silence. They go a field goal in the second, a field goal in the third. They had Zeus's touchdown in the fourth, and then they had Pod's final field goal there in the fourth to make
Pod
it
was great today. He was really good today.
Yeah, he was, and a lot of people were kind of hating on him. Llama says over/under on Bud Light seltzers that Roddy drank today is 6, and he said I'll take the over. I
might take the under on that. Who knows? Roddy's a bizarre guy when it comes to that stuff.
I think he had the under. I think he'll be all right. Let's see here. We've got there's a picture. Okay, I can't show this. If you go, how do we get this up? How do we get this up? Latavius Burney tweeted this out. Let me see if I can get this. I can get this for you guys. Let's see. Yeah, I can. Hold on. How do I see this? There we go. Latavius Burney tweeted this out, guys. It's pretty funny. Share screen. Yes.
Oh, is it about the Arkansas's comment before the game?
Yeah. It's this right here. What's funny? Held by Kirby Smart's son.
Oh, it's got to be a shot at that Arkansas player's tweet.
Yeah. What's funny? Kirby Smart's son holding that up, guys. That's pretty funny right there.
Oh,
damn.
Yeah, new look here. We got a new look here.
Oh, we'll bring it back. Boom. There we go. Just like that. Just like that, baby. Just like that. So Kirby Smart's son holding up the what's – did I miss a tweet, Ben? Did somebody say something?
Oh, an Arkansas player. So Nolan Smith made a comment about nobody gets in our end zone, even if you're the New England Patriots. And an Arkansas player quoted the tweet SEC Network put up of Nolan saying that, and he put laughing emojis. So that's where the funny
so that's
thing
where
is.
You get the what's funny from.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to bring in Roddy Nabulsi. Roddy. There he is.
What's funny?
Yeah. Did you see the tweet?
I did. Hey, look at my tweet. I screen captured Traylon Smith's tweet and then combined it with Lewis Seam trolling his ass. So,
oh man, so there's a little bad blood behind the scenes here. It feels like on this one, Roddy, Ben, I've got to run. I've got to go head out. Roddy,
that's what you're missing.
Oh, boy.
They asked how many Bud Light seltzers you're having over under 6.
He can't disclose that due to
FCC regulations.
Yeah, but Roddy, I'm going to go ahead and leave the studio. You've got full control of this now, right? You can see everything.
Yeah, if Llama's taking over, then what do we need?
Well, Llama is here. There he is. I see your scene treat. All right, guys, take it easy. Georgia, big win. Roddy and Ben on. This is going to be wild. I'm going to
Paul will not be active tonight.
Yeah, I will watch it the whole way. See you guys.
See you, Bill. All right, so what I missed so far?
All right, well, Roddy, what about your thoughts on the game? Because we've kind of gotten me, Paul, and I think Blaine was on there. I think they could hear him. So what were your thoughts on the game today?
I did not expect that. I did expect Stetson Bennett to start. Let's begin at the beginning. I was told that he was the one taking the snaps, when Georgia went one-on-one when throwing, I was told he was the guy throwing the ball. So, but here's the thing. I still thought that even though he was the guy taking the snaps, if JT got comfortable or healed up enough, then he would come in and start the game. So when I wrote my 3-2-1 column, I put in their question, the second question was, what about the quarterbacks? And the idea was, I don't know. I wasn't as confident as I was at UAB. In the UAB game, I said, look, Stetson's your starter, and everyone lost their minds because no one thought that was going to happen. This one I was less confident because I knew there was the possibility that if he went up there and he felt good, that he could play. Now, apparently he says, look, I've known I was a starter all week. Okay, well, that's why they probably didn't let us go watch practice Monday. Last week, we got to watch part of Monday's practice. This week, we didn't. So not trying to get too far into it, but, inside baseball. But I told people, hey, they're going to call on Stetson Bennett in this game. I didn't know how much. And then last night, let me phrase it. I told you guys at 1 o'clock, you can tell everybody at 1:20, I said Stetson Bennett started this game. But I didn't feel comfortable enough to report it because there's that 5% chance that he doesn't. And if you go out and report it again and you're wrong, it's just not worth it. And that's why I try to tell people, look, there's a possibility that this could happen. So, but then I said, the second thing was Arkansas. I expect them to move the ball on Georgia, not score a ton of points, but I expect them to at least move up the field because this is the first team that can throw and run. They're not one-dimensional. They couldn't do crap today, Ben. I mean, they could create penalties, but that first series were minus 14 yards. First play, you get them to jump off sides, Then you do it again. Then you get a sack, just like the Clemson game. And I said during the watch-along show, that sack is just as big as Nolan Smith's sack on C.J. Uiagalelei in the first series of Clemson. That sets the tone. You're in the shadow of your own end zone. You're punting out of your underneath your uprights. You're screwed. That was the game. And then, again, it changed their game plan because you saw they had one good drive, and that was it. But when you get behind the sticks like that and you just back-to-back bad series, and then you have a punt blocked on you, it's 21-0. Now, what you planned to do when you went in there, you can't do. So I expected a much better Arkansas team than what we saw, but I just think Georgia was that much more elite. 205 points to 23?
Yeah. One thing I'll say is Sam Pittman, it's not even the score that's going to be embarrassing for him. It's going to be how they lost. They got beaten up in the trenches, and that's Sam Pittman's specialty, and they got beaten up there. So that's something. And also one thing I will say is the field position. Nobody's really talking about that. The field position was kind of big for Georgia early in the game to set the tone. And then I think that rattled Arkansas.
Yeah, it screwed them up twice. So the first one, they tried to return it. They started on the 17. Well, you could have done a touchdown. You'd be on the 25. You're already you're on your 17. And then the second kickoff, you're starting on your 7 against that defense. Now, Georgia started on its 7 and drove 93 yards for a touchdown. I don't care who you are not going to drive repeatedly 97 yards on Georgia. I think one team had a good long drive on them, but that was about it. I think it was one score they gave up, and maybe that was against the second team, or maybe they got a field goal. But it is tough to drive. You have to, I don't say be flawless, but you have to execute at an outstanding level, running and throwing, to drive 97 yards on this defense. It's just not going to happen. So. Green Soldier says, anyone who says this was one of the most impressive wins under Kirby is insane. I don't know why you would – to me, I thought it was a very impressive win.
When it's a number 8 team of the country and you win 37-0, like when you look at the offense.
Even if it's not been the number 8 team, let's say they're way overranked. This is still a team to beat Texas and Texas A&M.
Yeah.
And you shut their ass out. Shutting out anybody is hard. Anybody. You could drop the ball on your side and then get an easy field goal. You get a pick 6, as we saw against UAB.
Yeah.
It is damn near impossible to get a shutout. And Georgia's done it back-to-back against a terrible, terrible Vandy team, and then a bloody good Arkansas team. So I'm fine with that. Let's see. So
in 3 of their 4 games this year, they've allowed 3 total points between, as a defense, Clemson, UAB, Vanderbilt, and Arkansas. 3 points. Because the one was a pick 6 against UAB, and then 3 against Clemson. So that's 3 over 4 games. Then South Carolina, you left 13. When you think of it, one of them was a pick by Bennett. Another one was a fumble, which really wasn't a fumble. And that's 10 or 13 were basically they were given to you by either the offense or the refs.
Right.
So they basically only allowed 6 real points this year when you think about it. That's just insane to me.
And I wrote in my column that this would be the week that multiple teams both teams kind of came back to the ground. They've been floating high. Georgia hadn't really been tested. Arkansas had been tested, but I think that they were overrated. I think they're a little too full of themselves. Arkansas was humbled. They did come back, crashing back to ground, but Georgia didn't. Now, I know a lot of people aren't excited about the run game, and they're not excited. I mean, they're not excited about the passing game when they're worried about having Stetson Bennett under center. And what could you in that against that defense? That's what you do. That the 3-2-6, you just run right at it. How many times did they have three guys on? You saw Malik Herring's tweet when Georgia scored his first touchdown. 3 down linemen inside the 5-yard line. Run the damn ball. And that's exactly what they did. So they kept having a situation where they'd have 3 or 4 down linemen, and Georgia would just mash them. Just mash them and mash them. And, they're so used to having all those guys rush up and run support, and swarm the ball and keep everything in front of them. Well, they kept everything in front of them all the way to the end zone.
Yeah. That's the one thing I'm confused about Arkansas. You have a backup quarterback you're playing again. When you think about it, Texas's quarterback, Hudson Card, got benched. Casey Thompson, now the quarterback, they're putting up points. And A&M, they put a backup quarterback who looked really bad, looked really bad. So they've been used to playing backup quarterbacks, to be fair. But now you're playing another one. Instead of loading the box to try to make him beat you, you just let them run the ball, which to me, that was confusing. And you didn't adjust to that, because I said, if you get to the second level on a 3-2-5 or a 3-2-6 or a 3-3-5, if your O-lineman gets to the second level, it's a guaranteed 6 or 7 yards. It's a guaranteed 6 or 7 yards. If 1 or 2 of your guards get to the second level.
Yeah. And Coach Dunn pointed out the guys on the edges that come crashing in all the time, they were so far out, so far wide, that by the time they'd come crashing in, you were already 4 yards, picked up 4 or 5 yards. And I thought Jed May, our intrepid recruiting reporter, pointed out something that Kirby Smart said earlier this week that's really, really boring for a lot of people. He was asked about explosive runs, and he said, look, what's as important when you're comparing explosive runs to, you're looking for explosive runs, but what is as important is efficiently running the ball, and getting your 4 yards to carry. And I know that's not what people want to hear. They want to see the 28 yards, 30 yards of pop. But in a game like this, when you can run efficiently, and you brought in tailback after tailback after tailback who got 4 yards, 6 yards, 5 yards, 3 yards, 8 yards, 6 yards, 7 yards, 4 yards, 2 yards, 9 yards. Shit, you just ran it down their throats. You have a top 10 team by the polls, but I mean, they're a good team, and you just mashed the crap out of them. And you haven't done that since the Clemson game. So, quick score update: Alabama 7, Ole Miss 0.
And Cincy's still up on Notre Dame.
Cincy's still up. Cincy's kicking Notre Dame's ass, 17-0. 28 seconds left in the second quarter. So that is brutal.
Only 7 points scored in the first quarter of Alabama Ole Miss. I would have lost a lot of money if I would have bet on that.
Yeah, everybody's. Well, remember the Georgia Clemson idea? Everyone had 45-38 and stuff like that. They just thought
you had both in the 20s, I think, right? You had both in the 20s. I think Georgia and Clemson. You had it like 24-23 or something like that.
Yeah, I thought I was going to be very low. Just basically made on the idea that whenever you hear there's going to be these monster
offensive games,
offensive outlets, the defenses get pissed off. They don't appreciate that, and they're like, "Hey, wait, what are we, chopped liver?" So, I think that's it. Just ticked enough people off, and they decided that they weren't going to put up with that. So that's what you're seeing here. These defenses hear all week about how they're going to give up 45 points, and they come out with a chip on their shoulder. So that's just not uncommon there. All right, Brent Straddle says impressive win. Alexander Rain says UAB didn't score a field goal. No, that's true. EJ Clayton, Arkansas can drop back 8 guys. Arkansas dropped back 8 guys, so we had a good game plan to run the ball. Yeah. They did. And the thing that killed me, though, Ben, was when they did it on the goal line. What the hell were you planning there? And I really wish we had that video.
I wonder if it's a personnel thing. Because do they have the guys? Because Pittman loves having really big guys up front. Like you look at Georgia's O-line, they've kind of gotten smaller weight-wise since Matt Lukey wants a more athletic O-line that's more of a zone offensive line, where Pittman just likes really big guys who are going to maul you. And that's what Arkansas did look like. They had a big front, but you have that. You're not going to be that athletic. And if you can't when you have that guys that spread out, it's going to be easy to run on them because their linebackers to me were small, Arkansas. Their linebackers didn't look too big.
But to me, it's still at some point you just have to go numbers, Just put bodies out there, just to take it away. When you may not have the guys who can go toe to toe with them, but bumper pool, playing 10 yards off the ball. I didn't get it, man. It just blew my mind. But you do have a good point there. And again, it's only year 2 for Sam.
Mm-hmm.
Think about it. When he rolls into Texas, on these recruiting visits and says, "Hey, I beat 3 teams from the state of Texas. Come play for me."
Mm-hmm.
But what got me is how many times his offensive line jumped. That was mind-boggling. I'm calling up
the fans really did affect that. Like the fans are going. I think it was the Auburn. This reminded me of the Auburn game last year. This to me was the same game as I remember Auburn last year when they came in. Both were top 10 ranked teams. Stetson Bennett, they were like, "Oh, what's going to happen now that Stetson's the starter?" And Georgia just ran all over them. I remember they beat down Auburn, and I think it was a similar score. They did the same thing to Arkansas. And I remember the start of that Auburn game last year, false start, because the fans were going nuts, even for 25% capacity last year. Same deal this year with the full stadium, and Arkansas's O-line looked rattled the whole game.
No, you're right. They did. They were. How many times they jump up? They had the procedure penalties.
At least 5 I can recall.
Yeah, that's actually what I was trying to look up real quick because there was so many of them. It was mind-boggling. Let's see, penalties, punts, kickoffs.
They had a big run with Jefferson, and then they got a holding. Like one of the times they actually busted a big play on a drive, they got a holding that came back.
13 penalties, 101 yards for Arkansas. Now, Georgia was, only had 6, but that's still 6. There's a bunch of those they should not have had. 3 of them came on punts.
Oh, yeah. It was too many men in the backfield. How do you get that? They got 2 plays in a row.
Yeah, you got to have 7 on the line.
That confused me. I think that might be the weakness of today.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think that might be the weakness of Georgia today was the punt team's penalties. That could be the weakness for today's game for Georgia. And the one thing I will say real quick about Georgia, I don't think they needed a quarterback today to win. They did not need a quarterback today to win.
I did like the fact that they used so many different looks. That was enjoyable. So you saw empty sets, 2-back sets, single backs, 12 personnel, just kept Arkansas's defense guessing because Arkansas's defense kept Georgia guessing. But, yeah, I think what was the quote? Let me go back and find it.
And I think your guy was probably the offensive player today, James Cook. I think he was definitely the offensive player of the day. He had about 7.5 yards a carry, close to 100 yards at 87.
Yeah, Stetson Bennett said Kirby Smart came up to him after Zamir White's last touchdown and said, "I could have done that." So to your point about actually needing a quarterback, that was when you're running the ball like that, and just handing it off. And here's the thing. I know Stetson Bennett wants to be out there chucking the ball all over the place. He wants to be throwing it downfield. He wants to be the mailman.
Mm-hmm.
But you notice after every first down, he's like, yeah. Just the pass that Justin Robinson dropped in the first maybe second series, when they cut to commercial and Georgia's not on the offense isn't on the field, where's Stetson Bennett? He's over there talking to Justin Robinson, saying, "Look, don't worry about it. We got this." It's a good team player, good team kid who was excited about getting the win. Not excited about his personal stats. Not excited about his. I'm sure he's happy that if he scores a touchdown and drops that beautiful pass like he did on the first series but he was so excited about every running touchdown, every first down, team stuff. You just got to love that. So, Kirby Smart got over to him saying, hey, I could have scored that touchdown, or I could have handed that ball off like he said to Bennett after Zamir White scored. I think that Kirby knows how to manage that young man. He knows that he just have fun with it, crack up, enjoy it. That's how you do it.
I have to think that the coaching staff was very confident coming in this game, because to have that game plan and a play like that, they must have been confident coming into today, because there's no way you could just run the ball. I'm just trying to look at how many rushing attempts they had. They had all 4 of their backs had over 10 carries. I think last week we were saying, was there going to be a running back that got 15 plus? Zeus got 16 today. So, and I think large part, when you have 4 backs like that, you're probably not going to see a guy get 20 touches, barring he's having he's breaking a bunch of big runs early. You're probably not going to see a guy get 20 runs on this running back room. But that's just, you looked at, they had like over 50 rushing attempts they only threw the ball 11 times. That's something.
Wait, they only threw it 11?
They only threw it 11 times.
Wow.
7 for 11, 72 yards for Stetson.
Well, you didn't need to. And here's the thing: when I said that Georgia was going to pound the ball and just run it, just because of the way that defense is lined up, and I did not expect it to be quite that run heavy. So
I didn't expect Arkansas to be that weak in the trenches today. But also, Arkansas, I understand why they would be in that personnel. They don't want to allow big plays. And to be honest, I'm shocked. If JT was out there, I think that the 3-3-5 would work, because you saw against South Carolina when JT was healthy, he's been hitting his deep balls this year. They haven't thrown too many because the defense just knows JT's on point with his deep balls, the one to Mitchell, the one to Burton. I mean, he's hitting on them. So that's what they're trying to prevent. But when you look at Stetson's not going to be a guy who's just going to launch a bunch of 50-yard passes all over the field on you.
But he did a UAB.
I mean, that was UAB.
Yeah, but again,
UAB was in man coverage too.
True, I mean, that's what I'm saying. But UAB, all those guys are playing up to stop the run. This team's dropping back to stop the pass. So I don't know. There would have been super, super tight windows today when you're trying to throw against those 6 defensive backs. Would have JT have come out and done the same thing, or would JT have come out and thrown all over the place, or would he have just been like, "Oh shit, here goes Amir"?
Yeah, I think they would have thrown the ball more with JT because I think they have more faith in him. And that's just my opinion. I also think that the run, because Stetson is mobile, Arkansas did have to account for that, because you've seen Stetson run it before. You saw the first play of the game, 9-yard run. He had that one. It was like a 3rd down, and the play broke down. He just snuck past the first down marker. I think he had another decent run where you have to account for that. So when you have a mobile quarterback, you're going to run the ball more by default. But I think with JT, you have to drop back and throw more, because when teams start seeing you run the ball, you only have to account for 1 runner. So I think that's one of the main reasons they would have thrown the ball more with JT, not by that much more, though.
I got you. No, that's completely fair. Sorry, I'm trying to share this with our readers so that they can see it as well. It's the full stats. So folks that want to see the whole thing, I'm grabbing it and I will share it in the comment section. So how many yards did James Cook have when this whole thing was said and done?
I think he had 87 rushing.
See, that's where he was about midway through the 3rd. Damn. I really wanted him to have 100 yards. I really did. All right, I got the link. Let's see. Ladd McConkey led the team in receiving. I love it. Well, again, there's only 11 passes, but he had 3 catches for 27 yards. What about the hit that he took?
Yeah, he did. I think he got the wind knocked out of him. That's what it looked like. He took a hit early. I think that was like the first pass attempt.
Yeah,
but
it was.
And the one thing I was talking about, I think it's got to be the injury to him. But Burton this season, I was expecting him to blow up. I guess maybe it's just the game plan and also his injury, but I was expecting him to have like a couple 100-yard performances. Today, I guess, it's ground and pound, but I'm expecting more out of him in the game plan going forward for Georgia to be where they want to be.
I agree. All right, EJ Clayton says, I agree with you. With a backup, I'm going after the QB. No excuse. Good point. Lad is I like a lot of my hair. Lad is Murray County country tough. He was. And we couldn't really hear the TV screen that was going on, but anybody have any idea what the hell Kirby was yelling about?
I have no idea. I remember he was getting on. The one thing I saw him yelling about was Stetson was before the half, which I thought that was one weird thing that I know Georgia fans are probably upset about, was before the half when they just said, we're just going to take it in the locker room. They had 2 minutes. Arkansas had no timeouts, where they just said, okay, we're just going to go in the half 24-0 when they could have went down the field. I remember Kirby was yelling at Stetson. It was like 3rd and 11. He threw like a 4-yard pass, and he had much more time. I remember that was one thing where Kirby was upset. But, yeah, the other times I don't remember what he was upset about.
I don't know either. But anyway, I was sharing the screen there, the stats, so that everybody could see them. And let's bring those up a little bit. So you're right. James Cook, 87 yards. Zamir White, 68. Kenny McIntosh, 60. Kendall Milton, 49. Stetson Bennett, 16. Dejon, none. But look at the number of carries: 12, 16, 10, 12. That's just a hard day of work. I love it. All right.
Traylon Burks, 10 yards. Ooh.
Yeah, remember his little ha.
Yeah, I was saying Darian Kendrick's the defensive star of the game for me, because I thought he was all over the field.
Yeah, Darian. There was one play, though, I could have swore he was going to get a pass interference call.
I didn't know. I didn't think it was PI on either. Like, looking at him, like, that's not going to be pass interference on either side. And then they said there was a push off, because something did look a little bit clunky there, but I could not tell there was a PI or not.
Here's a note for Brent Rollins. Says UGA's Devontae Wyatt played his 39th career game. He said, I bet today was his single highest game grade. It might be in the low 90s. Now, folks, you don't understand that with PFF, if you're in the 90s, you are elite of the elite. That is a crazy score. And Devontae Wyatt, again, with that sack right in the first one, just absolutely crushing people. Coach Don and I were talking about this on the watch along. There was one play where poor guard for Arkansas had to make a decision, because Nakobe Dean came flying up in a blitz. And you have to take you take the most dangerous man. That's your job as, an offensive lineman. Lots of times when you're going to the edge or when you're in the center, most dangerous man. A blitzing linebacker is usually the most dangerous man, because sometimes those defensive tackles, you have some help with those guys. But here's a guy coming shooting the gap. So the guard picks up Nakobe Dean, and like a rocket strapped to his back, Devontae Wyatt goes streaming into the backfield, chasing after the quarterback, who has to make a bad play. And I thought that Devontae Wyatt was played out of his mind. And I love that, because he's a Decatur tough guy. What do you think of Devontae's game?
Devontae looked good. I saw he had the initial sack, and I think he had another one where Dean was also in there. It was cleanup, where he was the one guy, I think, in the Clemson game. I think he was the only D lineman or pass rusher who's a starter who didn't get a sack in that game, and he was the biggest star along the defensive line, especially in the pass rush today. So it goes to show. I think the thing that separates Georgia this year, well, I think they have a great chance against Alabama, not only because if they get Pickens back and JT healthy, they're going to be a balanced offense. The number one way you beat an offense nowadays is if you have an elite front seven that gets to the quarterback, it throws off everything. It's the number one key in defense. If you have a dominant front seven that gets pressure, it can throw everything off. Doesn't matter how good the receivers are, good the running backs are. If your defensive line and front seven can dominate the opposing offensive front, doesn't matter how good the quarterback, the skill positions, it does not matter. This front is different than all the other ones, because you have multiple guys and they're getting pressure and sacks from everywhere, from the linebackers in the middle, from the edge guys, Nolan Smith and Adam Anderson. Nolan Smith's having a great year. I mean, this is a big breakout year for him.
No, he's overrated. He's way over. He's a bust. Why isn't he playing more? He's not any good. I heard
the SEC sack leader last year was ahead of him. Like, this is someone who is more experienced. It's a process. I don't understand. Like, people saying this guy's a bust. Adam Anderson is a senior. This is his first year starting, and he's a first-round draft grade right now. Mel Kiper's board has him number 1 outside linebacker, number 12 player in the draft. This is his first year starting, and he's a senior.
He's a bust too. God, I mean, I'm sorry. I just heard so many people complain that these 5-stars weren't in the game right off the bat. And Azeez Ojulari, a 4-star, was. I'm like, Azeez Ojulari is absolutely a monster. And again, sometimes your defense is not set up to run 2-3 pass rushers out there. You know, it's you have a Jordan Davis, a Jalen Carter, and a Devontae Wyatt out there. You know, then it's like, are you going to add 2 more? Are you adding Nolan Smith and Adam Anderson out there? Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. There's it's a multiple defense, and people. Well, let me put it this way: do you also add, when you had Azeez Ojulari, do you also put Adam Anderson and Nolan Smith on the field at the same time? No. So who are you taking off the field to put those guys in? You know, and that's the thing. So I'm very happy to see Nolan Smith and Adam Anderson absolutely crushing it. I put the defensive stats up on the board right there. You see Devontae Wyatt led the team in tackles with 6. 1.5 sacks. Adam Anderson was second on the team with 5 tackles, 1 sack there. You know, he's trying to get to that 20. He set that goal of 20 sacks for the season. Nakobe Dean, again, 1.5 sacks. He's had a hell of a season. He's going to make himself a lot of money. And I remember saying at the beginning of the season, Nakobe Dean is not Roquan Smith. Not to say that he can't be that good, but I just didn't think he'd be Roquan-esque this early in the season. I was thinking, remember Nakobe, Roquan came on more towards the end of the season. Remember how good he was at the end of that 2017 season? Just unstoppable. But he wasn't like that to start the season.
Yeah, and you know what nobody's talking about? Roquan's coverage ability for a linebacker, and I've been saying this maybe because I followed LSU a little bit, where I've seen like LSU linebackers. They don't cover. They're not good in coverage. I've seen this. Steve translating to the NFL, a lot of these guys. Georgia's linebackers, Nakobe Dean can cover. Quay Walker's improved there. He had a pass breakup or 2 today. Channing Tindall can fly. Like, these Georgia linebackers can cover, which really helps the defense that nobody's talking about. Because that's why tight ends, I haven't seen any tight end make a catch this year, basically, against Georgia, because they cannot do anything over the middle of the field with how Lewis Seen's playing and how the linebackers have the ability to cover. And that's something like last year, Monty Rice was following, I think it was Devontae Smith or Jalen Waddle, all the way down the field. That's something that nobody wants to talk about with Georgia is their linebackers in coverage. It helps that defense so much. It makes your defense so versatile that you have players that can do so many things, so many guys that can get to the quarterback. Secondary, you lose 6 guys, and you got an All-American, highest-rated corner out of high school, or your 2 starting corners. That's something where it's just – it makes this defense so hard to plan around because what do you do?
No, I don't want to touch on what you said when you talked about this defensive run being so impressive. I mentioned in our column on Friday how Dayne Lanning has planned this. He knows that his secondary has some issues. You got Keely Ringo, first year playing. Latavius Brini, first year really playing that star position. You're super thin at safety. You know, shout out to our man Dan Jackson. Has a huge play. But again, that's a walk-on as your number 3 safety back there. You know, we hadn't seen a whole lot from William Poole yet this year. You know, he had to miss the first 4 games.
David Daniel.
Yeah, David Daniel, hadn't seen him back there. You know, Major Burns left. He's killing it for LSU. You lost a bunch of guys to the transfer portal. You had to bring in, you know, Darian Kendrick to be a starting corner. Tariq Stevenson's kicking ass down in Miami, probably their best player on that entire team.
Tyke Smith hasn't played yet.
Tyke hasn't played yet, but
I don't. Was he out there today?
I did not see him.
He's not in the stat sheet. I don't know if he played or not. I don't think he did. I'm not 100% though.
Hey, Becky Knight, thanks for tuning in. We appreciate that. I didn't see him in there. I guess I should go back and look at that. But I mentioned the fact that Dayne Lanning has he's protected this secondary. He's really taking care of them by being able to get all what you mentioned, all those different pressures. They're getting pressure from so many different places, and you're able to do it with, like in that Clemson game, with 3 guys. 4, 5. He's never sending 6 and 7 man pressures and leaving his secondary out there on an island. Hey, good luck in man. They're able to play under, man under. They're able to play quarters. They're able to play three divided into thirds. So you got 3 up there. So you got 3 deep, 4 deep. Just making it so much easier in that secondary to be able to bracket the best player. Now you saw Van at South Carolina get behind him a couple times, so they fixed that. But again, if you want to bracket somebody like that, if you want to take Trey Burks, that very talented wide receiver for Arkansas, and you're like, look, we got to put 2 guys on him. Treylon,
10 yards.
Yeah. You can't do that if you have to rush 6 or 7. And, hey, you're able to get pressure with just those 3 guys, 4 guys, 5 guys, and able to affect the quarterback as much as they do. You're right. People are not giving that front 7 enough credit because they are creating huge problems for teams moving the ball through the air. You think about them being great against the pass, but when you can drop all 3 of your linebackers, those inside linebackers, into coverage and do the jobs they've been doing, that's lights out. You're right. All right. Trying to see who else has popped up on there. Folks, let us know where you're watching this from. I would really appreciate it. I always like to know who's tuned in. I like John Goodrich, 10 more wins. That's awesome. Yeah, it's 15, isn't it? That's where you want to get to?
Mm-hmm.
All right. And what was the other thing we wanted to see here? Oh, yeah. This drive chart. Check out Arkansas. Punt, punt, miss field goal, punt, 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 into half.
I think I saw their first 9 offensive drives, 7 were 3 and outs.
Yeah. 3 plays for minus 14 yards, 3 plays for 1 yard. 3 plays for 0 yards, 3 plays for 7 yards, 3 plays for 10, 3 plays for 3, 3 plays for minus 3. So, yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah. 7 3 and outs. So this is the second to worst. I thought it was the worst team in the SEC in third down conversion. They are ahead of Vanderbilt and 1 percentage point behind South Carolina. So South Carolina's pretty much garbage, as Georgia proved. But whereas Georgia went touchdown, block, kick, touchdown.
I'm shocked about KJ Jefferson, why they didn't run him more. I know that they got stuffed early, but there were plays, I think, in the second quarter where he had 2 or 3 nice runs on Georgia. I'm shocked they didn't run him more in the second half. But at that point, they kind of needed to throw, or else they had no chance of catching up. So,
but then they handed it off to other guys. I think though, I'm with you there. It would surprise me too, but I was with you. I'm like, he's going to run it. He's going to run it. He's going to run it. And he didn't, but he handed it off a lot. It wasn't like they just completely started throwing the ball all the time.
Yeah. Because that's why I've been researching some of the future opponents, like Kentucky. Kentucky's like a team that they're just going to run it with their running backs, which is going to make life super easy on Georgia because I know they have a decent O-line, but Georgia, when you have one runner to account for, makes it a lot easier, especially when you have front 7 like Georgia's. Arkansas had 2 guys. They had Jefferson, they had the running back, and Jefferson's a big guy. He's hard to tackle, and he's athletic. He can move down the field. They didn't use him enough because that's the one big question for Georgia when they play Florida. How do they address the quarterback run? Because I don't think Florida's got the pass catchers to beat Georgia when they need to throw the ball. I really don't to have a huge game with Georgia secondary. I don't see it.
There's no Kyle Pitts down there.
They need to have Florida needs to have Anthony Richardson and Emory Jones have a bunch of carries and to see if those quarterback runs could be successful. Georgia stopped it, and except the second quarter, there was like 1 or 2 drives where he had a couple decent runs, but Arkansas went away from it. So that's still kind of a question mark. Well, can Georgia stop that consistently?
Well, here's what I think may have happened or why they didn't use Jefferson as much, because you saw that they had a spy on him. Lots of times it was Nakobe Dean. Lots of times it was Channing Tindall or Quay Walker or something like that. And I don't know that they thought that, hey, our guy can beat their guy. They're committed. let's take that middle linebacker out of the game. I'll stay back here. He's a spy on me. If I hand it off, then that guy's going to be able to do something. So that's just a guess. I don't know. Maybe our folks there can explain it to us or can come up with a better theory than that. So anyway, let me turn that off real quick. Sorry about that. How much total offense did Arkansas have today? It was not. Basically, they had 6 rushing first downs.
162 yards.
Yeah. 2 passing first downs for a whopping 162 yards. How many did Georgia have?
345.
Now, what to me was most telling, though, is give them that third down percentage that Arkansas had.
273 rushing yards on a team. I'm telling you, the balance is going to be important for Georgia going forward, because if George Pickens does come back soon and JT gets, and I will say earlier when you first came on, you alluded to the reporting on that. His injuries week to week, day to day, even by the hour, because it's a muscle. The nature of the injury makes it really complex for the trainers to have to deal with, and for JT with his feeling day to day. So it's going to be hard to see the reporting. Next week, I would probably bet he plays, because I guarantee they're going to limit him more. He's probably going to feel better because he didn't have to get hit this week. But that's going to be something to watch going forward.
Hey, we're going to welcome in Brent Rollins, who I probably need to go back and publish his story. But Brent always gives us his thoughts and observations after the games are over. And let's get Brent's we put it behind the paywall, but I didn't make this one free this time, Brent.
I think that's a good idea. I like that.
No. The hell, we're doing a free post-game show. But give us your thoughts and observations, if you would.
I mean, Arkansas just wet the bed, like from play one. I mean, the first play of the game, and you jump off sides when the Georgia defensive line moves. That was amazing. The first offensive play of the game for them. Yeah. But that was just the most amazing thing. Obviously, Georgia was just utterly beyond physically dominant in the game, running the ball at will, doing whatever they wanted to. The other part, Devontae Wyatt, and that was the person that I highlighted in the postgame piece, because I think it was. I went back and counted. It was his 39th game at Georgia.
We talked about that.
Yeah, and it was how Arkansas coming in the game. They're the experienced team. They have all these super seniors. Well, Georgia has its own super senior.
Nonstop. Oh my God, on 9 of them. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but it's just
but that's so
that was the talking point.
Mm-hmm. And that, hey, all the experience, all that, and well, Georgia has its own super senior, and I would bet when the grades come out tomorrow that he posted his career high single game grade, and it's probably in the upper 80s or low 90s in terms of grade. He was just constantly disruptive. Sack. He finally gets a sack. It was one of the things where he's pressured the QB ad nauseum his whole career, but not got a lot of sacks. So it was good to see him finally get a sack. And that, and then the last thing I wrote about was just once the punt block happened for me, I watched the rest of the game as if I were Dan Mullen. And okay,
that's interesting.
Like if I'm Dan Mullen and I'm watching the rest of this game, is there one little thing, one little nugget? And there was a little bit of speed option game. There was a little bit of QB draw stuff that had some success. But it's just utterly clear to me that this team and this defense specifically, you have to beat them through the air with next level passing ability and the running back, the running game of the QB sort of sprinkled in. Not flipping that, not, hey, QB run, and then we're also going to throw the ball secondarily. No, it has to be air through the air primarily, and then add in the QB run game.
We had a good question a second ago. Ben brought it up. Why did they not run KJ Jefferson more?
I mean, I think they did. It wasn't that they by choice. I think a lot of that was his just give reads. And I think Georgia does such a phenomenal job of team defense. That's why you often see like people specifically looking at the PFF grades, a lot of times people are like, hey, why isn't some of the Georgia defenders higher on that list? And it's because of how great they play team defense. Where, hey, I'm doing my job, and that's not necessarily a play that's going to flash and you're going to get, that positive grade and it's going to be on the highlight tape, but it's leading to just a solid play, no gain, 2 yards, because you've done your job and it's made it easier for someone else to do theirs. And I think Georgia plays such great team defense that they're not going to give the QB run game easy decisions. And if they're not going to, if they're not going to do that, then, he's going to be given the ball a lot. And also, it just when you go, hey, first, second down, and you can't do anything, it completely changes everything you want to do.
Yeah, that's a good point. I hope does that make sense, Ben?
Yeah. Also, I saw you popped up Chuck's question. It was sack and a half for Nakobe and Devontae Wyatt. They split the one.
Yeah, I love the fact that's what I was about to call up, the fact that Devontae Wyatt led the team in tackles. When do you see a interior defensive lineman lead the team with 1.5 sacks and a forced fumble? So,
by the way, I think half sacks are the dumbest thing. Like each of them got a sack. Just give them a sack. Put
the team total, and that's separate.
Yeah.
No, that makes sense. I got him there. So
I'm struggling right now with the fact that on the Thursday show with Coach Donnan, I picked Ole Miss to beat Alabama, and Alabama's held them to nothing right now. Coach Donnan went the other way and was saying 14 plus for Alabama. So him and I are on different ends of the spectrum with this one. He's looking pretty good right now.
Oh wait, here goes the long bomb to nobody. So anyway, Tristan says Arkansas was overwhelmed. I agree, and I think it was that overwhelming that caused them to kind of readjust what they were going to do with KJ Jefferson. It's like you had a game plan going into it, but you got hit right in the mouth. So not a whole lot you can do at that point. You're just kind of just screwed. It's like, okay, everything we had planned is now out. So
and as someone who's called plays now, albeit at the youth football level, but I think we run a lot of what Ole Miss does and a lot of what Bama and Clemson, those teams do as well. But when you are at such a physical disadvantage, your brain just kind of goes into almost freeze mode as a plays caller. You're like, all right, what do I want to do this. Well, but then there's hesitation. And when you have that moment of hesitation as a play caller, well, now you only got 16 seconds on the play clock. All right, I'm just going to go with this. I'm just going to go with what I know or what I'm used to. And it's just not working. And you're just getting dominated upon dominated upon dominated.
And my theory, one of the reasons, because we saw them, they didn't really go to the air as much as they could have, not Georgia, but Arkansas, especially when they were down. I think it was they saw the same problem that Georgia did. It's like when you look downfield, you're like, man, they're in nickel, they're in dime. There's a lot of guys dropping back. The numbers tell us, you're got to make this decision fast, right?
Right.
The numbers tell us, run the ball, hand the ball off. They're spying the quarterback. So I'm going to stay back, and that will take Nakobe Dean out of the play because he's spying me, or that takes Quay Walker out of the play, or that takes Channing Tindall out of the play. I'm going to hand it off to this running back, and we got numbers. Damn, it didn't matter.
Well, and I wrote about this in the offseason, but that people talk so much about Jordan Davis and how vital he is to this team and whatnot. When somebody who like last week played 9 plays, like I don't think he's played more than 300 snaps in his career in a season. I mean, he plays about a third of the time. But his ability, because he's there, and Georgia does not have to commit resources to the run game, and thus can and leave those guys on the back end to play the pass, that's his value. When you can have somebody like that in the middle of the defense, and Wyatt, and Nazir Stackhouse, who's actually been getting some good run. Like when you have all those things, it allows you to play the pass more with limited resources in the run. It makes you that much more dangerous as a defense.
That's a good point.
And another 4th down miss for Ole Miss.
Hey, man, you picked against the king.
I don't know why they didn't just take an early lead and just take the points it's still momentum. I don't understand that one.
The Nictator is, as Coach Donnan calls him, is flexing his muscle right now.
We have Chuck Ward asked, did Adam Anderson get a sack, or did they rule that quarterback had tucked it to run?
I believe they gave it to him. Let's see.
Yeah, he did. Adam Anderson, yes, 1.5 sacks for Adam Anderson.
Yeah, another one
sack, 1.5 tackles.
One sack. There you go.
Sorry, and then you have the whole sacks versus tackles for loss. Both.
By the way, the fact that it even impacts rushing yards is the dumbest thing ever, too.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned halfway. I mention this all the time, and Coach Don corrects me all the time, and I'm like, I get it, Coach, but I'm still going to mention the fact that when you look at KJ Jefferson or any quarterback's running thing, KJ Jefferson. Remember, he's supposed to be the danger, right? This is the guy that's going to rip draw. I thought he would. 8 carries for 5 yards. Now, one of those was a 14-yard run. So you can't say that, he only had 5 yards, but what he netted, because he got sacked so many times. So what I like to see is KJ Jefferson in the rushing column, how many positive yards did he get? What was his total?
43.
It should be total.
Yeah.
It should be you put the total yards. You just put that in total offensive yards. That's just a loss of total yards. Shouldn't be affect rushing, passing. Like in the NFL, I think it's passing it affects. Yeah. In the college, they count it as rushing, which I think that's weird. You have 2 leagues who count it differently. That makes no sense.
Yeah, or just put it under team. If the quarterback's tackled, sacked, or something like that. The team rushing minus 14 yards.
BFF doesn't. BFF, we don't do that. In terms of if you look at all the data and all the rushing data for sort of the numbers for the game, it's completely separated out.
So they have him on the official chart. KJ Jefferson 8 rushes, 27 yards gained, 22 lost. So you said 33.
I think
that ain't a whole hell of a lot.
I think that actually probably includes.
Hey, while you're looking that up, I'm gonna add in a couple other guys here.
All right.
We'll bring in Anthony Dasher, and we'll bring in Trent Smallwood. Let's have a hell of a party in here today. Hey,
we're like the pregame NFL shows.
Yeah, exactly. We'll bounce around. Score updates. Ole Miss is still getting their butts kicked by Alabama. Alabama's up 14-0.
About to score again.
It's about to be 21-0, but maybe that's a guess. And Cincinnati's drubbing Notre Dame 17-0. Anthony Dasher, you were at the game. You saw that crowd file into the stadium early. Kirby Smart challenged him. I think midway through the Vanderbilt game, he's like, "Hey, the first thing he said, I think last week, was we got to have a big crowd," and that crowd was early and loud. Tell us about it.
Oh, no doubt about it. I mean, Coach Smart said that in his press conference on Monday, as well. I mean, just challenging folks to come out, and they did. This was probably the loudest I've heard Sanford Stadium, since the Notre Dame game, a couple of years ago. And the impact was obviously felt right off the bat. I mean, back-to-back, legal motion penalties to start the game, and then to start the second quarter. I mean, same thing on the first play was just a tremendous deal, and also they had a big effect on that block punt. I mean, just the way they affected the cadence of that. I mean, Kirby, in fact, gave the fans 10 points for the game today for their contributions. So that was pretty cool. But you could definitely tell up in the press box. It was a loud crowd. They answered Coach Smart's call, and they made a big difference in the ball game.
Yeah, they were lights out. And Trent, how many times have you seen Georgia put that shift on and it caused the offensive line to jump?
I mean,
do we have a stat running on that? I think we should have a weekly over/under.
I put together a little clip on Twitter just from last year, and I think it had 6 of them.
It seems like the offensive line coach that would know it best is Sam Pittman, and I don't understand when they did that in the first quarter. I think it was twice, and I was like, "This is Sam Pittman, coach offensive line." I mean, he knew this was coming. So
they jumped over. They jumped a lot. This either one of you or anybody, Give me your thoughts on Georgia basically just shutting down the running game. Shutting down the passing game, going, yeah, we'll throw it 11 times, but probably once or twice in the second half. We don't need to throw the ball. We're just going to run the damn thing.
I mean, that's just what Georgia wanted to do. I mean, they came in with a game plan. They thought they could, if they could be patient, they could, start, winning the game with the run and just really kind of, inserting their own will. And that's what they did. And as Coach Smart said, it had nothing to do with the fact that Stetson Bennett was at quarterback. It had nothing to do with anything other than the fact that they thought that was going to work. I mean, that was what Arkansas was giving up. I mean, this was really the first time you have not seen a team try to stack the line of scrimmage. They were going to give up the runs, and Georgia, took advantage of that. I know some fans were upset they didn't throw the ball more, but this is one of those occasions where they didn't have to, and Georgia was able to to do what they planned going into the game. I thought the offensive coaches had a good game plan for this, and they won the game very easily. They could have easily won it more than if they had wanted to, but they just didn't. Again, just didn't have the need, I guess is the best way to put it.
When was the last pass? What minute mark in the game was the last pass Georgia threw?
I think it was early fourth.
Well, yeah, it was early.
I think the line of demarcation there, though, was when Stetson threw it up and they dropped it. And they dropped the pick. Like, once that happened, and, at that point in the game when you're like, all right, they're not scoring on us, barring we give them the ball. Like, I think that was like, all right, defensive coach mindset took over. All right, we're just going to run down their throat. If we have to throw it, we will. But until then, we're running it down their throat.
Absolutely. What else did Kirby say that caught your attention there?
He was a little bit. He was very snippy today. People, including myself, was asking about JT Daniels and Coach, kind of got a little upset about that, and instead wanted to focus on the guys who were here and who were playing the game, et cetera, et cetera. But still, that's a big part of this ball game is JT Daniels, not playing. Now, we did learn that Stetson Bennett learned he was starting the game on Monday, and naturally, people like myself want to know, well, how long was JT going to be out? And that really set Coach off a little bit. So you guys just don't need to worry about that. You need to worry about who we got here, and and JT's going to come back. He's going to be fine, but we need to worry about what we have here today. So that was probably
don't worry
the
about
biggest
the
thing.
5-star quarterback.
Yeah, exactly.
Has been played 20 snaps last week. Didn't play.
Kirby was in rare form today. Yeah, I think he was actually had some ammunition in his holster today, ready to shoot with some of these questions. He knew some of these things were coming. He let loose on a few times.
I don't know. I think he doesn't like answering questions. He doesn't like to be doubted. And when you have a resounding win over a number 8 team in the nation, I think he just wants people to come in and go, "Damn, Coach, that was great." And,
great job.
Yeah,
pat him on the back.
Lovely. But when people come in, like, okay, now, but that's the nature of it. Is like, okay, well, there's nothing really asked about the game, so you move to personnel. And guess what? As journalists, what are we going to be asked about? When's JT coming back? So we're going to ask that. I get why he's ticked off. Did you get to catch Stetson Bennett's interview post game?
Yeah. Yes, I did. I talked to Stetson a little bit, and like I said, he did not know he was. Well, I had to take that back. He knew he was going to start the game on Monday, and but he was just real matter of fact. Stetson, we all know, is a veteran. It's nothing going to phase him, and he's probably the most excited guy that Georgia was running the ball as well as it was doing. They're taking advantage of the defense that that Arkansas was showing, and gave a lot of credit to the offensive line, rightfully so. It's probably, I think, maybe in their best game of the year. And he was excited. He talked about how the team felt that still had a little bit something to prove, and he thinks they went out and did that with the game today, with the way they played the game today.
Brent and Trent, and I've talked to both of you guys about this. What does this say for Georgia? I came into this game saying that both of these teams were going to come back to earth today. Arkansas is not as good. This is not the number 8 team in the nation. You have some big wins, but you haven't faced a Georgia. You haven't faced somebody like that. And Georgia, you haven't faced an offense that can move the ball like this Arkansas offense can. Well, I was damn wrong about them moving the ball. But at the same time, Arkansas did come crashing there. To me, shutting out Vanderbilt's no big deal. I said that was the biggest mismatch in my 28 years of covering Georgia football in an SEC contest, just from the roster standpoint. They look like a high school team versus a college team. But shutting out Arkansas, that's a big damn statement. You guys give me your thoughts.
Go ahead, Trent.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that, coming in thing, I thought it would be like a war. I thought it might be more low scoring. I predicted, I think 34-10, but I thought it would be, maybe 17-7 or something at halftime. But it was really never in doubt. And I think I'm just impressed by Georgia's defense. And you're going to hear all week, well, Arkansas was overrated, and maybe they're not the top 8 team in the country, but Georgia's defense is going to make a lot of people look overrated throughout this year. They're just talented. They run to the football. They're they look well coached, and I really think Muschamp has kind of brought an edge, maybe not something, but another dimension to that defense, whether it's game planning or whatever. I just think he's brought a little bit more to the defense, and they're playing with the chip on their shoulder right now.
Second it. And it's when you talk about Muschamp, it's now you have Kirby, Muschamp, and your new secondary coach, who are all sort of secondary guys. And that was the area that you thought, hey, this is going to be an issue, especially early. And they have the highest coverage grade in the country right now. And all those guys, I mean, you haven't seen coverage bust at all. I mean, even the stuff that's getting completed, it's contested catches and things like that. It's got to take an elite level passing offense to me. And I think I said this a little while ago. You have to be able to throw the ball at an elite level.
But this kind of calls up what Ben said, and let you finish that in a second. Ben talked about how strong this front seven is and how that affects the secondary. You're able to get pressure with 3 guys we saw in Clemson game. This week, they got a sack with a 4-man rush. Then they got a sack with a 5-man rush. They're never having to send 6 and 7. They're able to drop back guys, and they're not running that 3-2-5, that 3-2-6. They're able to get pressure with a more traditional offense. Traditional defense, but that front seven is making that secondary look good.
Yeah, and the Kobe Dean as a blitzer has been an absolute just weapon. And I think that's when you can bring 4, traditionally get pressure like they have, and quick pressure. And it's not pressure is the timing part of it. You got to get quick pressure with the way a lot of times in the college offense, how quickly the ball is out. You got to get quick pressure, and they're getting quick pressure. And if they're not, and then when they blitz, the Kobe Dean is going to, his pass rush grade is now up in the upper 80s, and he's very Roquan-esque now as a pass rusher. And that's just another element that when you combine it all, it's beyond unreal to watch.
They tried to take some shots tonight. They did some play action stuff, and there was nothing open. I thought Ringo did a good job. Ringo was on his man, and Kendrick. And I thought Kendrick played good defense, but I thought he was physical on the edge and tackling. And it was just overall dominating.
Yeah, y'all missed the conversation we just had where I was eating some crow when first week of the season. I said that look, Kobe Dean ain't Roquan Smith yet. Well, damn, he's more Roquan Smith than Roquan was at 5 games into the season.
As a pass rusher, he very much is Roquan-esque.
Yeah,
Roquan's a different level as a run defender, getting side to side. But as a pass rusher, he has been that this season.
Well the side to side guy is Channing Tindall. He's flying all over the place. That's kind of like you mix those two together, and that's Roquan.
No, that's lights out. Dash, what does this do for? Right now, for a quick scoring updates, Alabama's up 28-0 on Ole Miss. So
got to play some defense sometime.
Oregon's down by 10 on Stanford, and Stanford's moving the ball.
Just saying,
the biggest score update is Georgia's last year's the last game they played last year. Cincinnati's up 17-zip, late third on Notre Dame. At Notre Dame.
Well, Notre Dame wasn't very good when they played Miami.
Yeah, that's true. But Cincinnati's good, and Georgia beat them. And
what teams are good?
Defenses.
Cincinnati's got NFL players, Ritter and Jackson and Gardner. Those guys are like first, second round type guys.
But is this a year where it's Georgia, Alabama, and everybody else?
You stole my question there. I was just about to ask. Dash, you see more national stuff than I do. It just feels, and I know they mentioned this on Sport Game Day. It feels like there's 1 and 2, Georgia and Alabama, and then the gap between 2 to 3, 4, 5, all the way down, it seems bigger than it's ever been.
Oh, no question. I think easily Georgia and Alabama are the best 2 teams in the country. After that, I mean, you're going to find warts of everybody who's sitting there behind them, and that's why Georgia's such a great position right now. Even if go undefeated, and even if they lose in the SEC championship game, I can guarantee they're still going to be in the playoffs just from what we've seen so far.
Yes.
So, I mean, Georgia has not been in this kind of spot ever, to be honest with you. I mean, and that's something of – and they're still not clicking yet. That's the thing. I mean, JT Daniels is not healthy yet.
Right.
What happens when he gets, finally shakes these little bugaboos he's got going on? How much more explosive will this offense become? Get Arian Smith back. I mean, get Don Blaylock back. I mean, get Darnell Washington back in the offensive flow. I mean, Darnell now did a great job, with the run blocking today. They used him extensively. He did fine, but what happens when he starts catching the ball along with Brock Bowers? I mean, it's going to be an exciting offense. It's only going to get better as this year goes along.
You could also add Rick Gilbert. You could also add George Pickens.
Marcus Rosemy-Jackson.
Oh, yeah, Marcus. Yeah, did he play at all?
He did not play. No, he didn't play. He did not dress out. And he still had a sprained ankle.
Did Tyke play?
I don't think so.
I have not. I don't remember seeing him. I haven't looked at the participation chart yet, but I don't remember seeing him. He did dress out and all that, but I don't think, unless he got in late, I don't believe he did today.
I think Bullard was really the first non-normal defense that we see that got on the field.
And guys, I need to check on that. I need to get these stories here done. But I just want to drop in real quick and
no.
I think who played a good bit with Stackhouse. Stackhouse played a good bit. I saw him in there a lot. He made a couple.
We'll go back to that. Hang on 1 second. Dash, thanks for hopping in. And everybody, check over UGAsports.com and check out all of Anthony Dasher's good work over there. He'll have the notebook coming. I'll be all the news and notes. It's always our most read feature after the game because it has all the fun stuff in there. And we got Jed in the wings, but we don't need to talk to Jed. He's not going to help do anything here. We don't need him. Brink, when I'm looking back at how this game worked out, did anybody predict this from a national pundit level? Did anybody expect just an ass kicking?
I mean, Coach Donnan, he kind of said that on Thursday.
No, I've been with him. He thought like I did because after he read my column, he's like, "Hey, you were right on some of this stuff." He says, I too think that Arkansas is going to be able to move the ball on Georgia."
Well, you guys agreeing on something? That's rare. That's rare. You guys agreeing on some Georgia football.
No, trust me. We behind the scenes, we argue a lot. We try to go on the same thing because here's the thing: I'm wrong all the damn time, all the time. He's like, and he just shakes his head. He's like, "Let me tell you something about football, son." And then he explains why I'm just completely full of crap. And it's made me a hell of a lot better analyst. I mean, 2 years ago, I couldn't explain the difference between man under and quarters and all this, odd fronts, even fronts. I mean, yeah, I kind of remembered it back from my playing days, but I'd forgotten 90% of that stuff, and he educates me a lot. So he did a great job. He said, "Hey, I agree with you. They're going." And we started off the show. He said, "Look, fans," he's trying to get everybody to brace for this because this is going to be a tough physical game. And they got this quarterback. They can run it. They can throw it. We're going to see them move the ball. Don't freak out. And then it was false penalty, sack, block, punt. 3 and out. And he's like, "Well, damn." So,
just like Doug.
Anybody expected big of an ass kick is what I want you guys to.
Much like with Ole Miss, Doug Collins that always did NBA games and coached in the NBA would always talk about how you're not necessarily going to win games in the first quarter, but you can sure as heck lose them.
Yes.
And Arkansas and Ole Miss basically lost the better game in the first quarter today.
Yeah.
To where not hanging around, not putting points on the board, and sort of self-inflicted mistakes. And I thought Arkansas would get maybe one big play and get some first downs with the QB run game a little bit, but not for. I didn't think they would score more than 14 points at all. I didn't think that was at all possible, just because the guy as a thrower is not there yet, and that was quite evident. And when you can't throw the ball efficiently and attack, especially in the intermediate 10 to 20 yards down the field, this defense is too suffocating. It's too good. It's too fast everywhere. It's just hard.
They only had 5 first downs.
Something like that. It was very little.
It was not a lot. First down. No, Arkansas had 9 first downs.
Oh, few late maybe.
Yeah, that last drive they had.
Trent had already pieced out of that one.
Trent's like, I'm done.
I started writing pretty early.
Yeah. Why is everybody's turning in their stuff here? I'm getting texts and stuff saying they're everybody's done
in the drafts.
In drafts. That means you got to hit the go button, boss man.
Yeah, where's Rob?
Yeah, hey, Jason Budd, if you're watching, go ahead and launch your thing. Let's bring Jed in here. Jed, you were at the game. Tell us what you saw.
I don't know, man. According to you, I don't do anything. So I don't know.
That's
I was just kind of hanging out in the box. No, it was, I think, and I don't know, Dash might have mentioned this too, but that first quarter and that first drive was one of the loudest times I've heard Sanford Stadium, period, noon game, night game, whatever. It was ears ringing, all that kind of stuff. It was truly, because coaches issue these challenges and it's the stadium might be full, but not that loud. They answered the call and more. I mean, it was truly, and you saw it. You saw it on the field with the 2 false starts. It was really it was honestly surprising and shocking just how much the crowd played a role, especially in that first quarter.
But I was told crowds didn't get loud for noon games.
Well, I mean, I guess technically this game started at 12:06 or whatever, so maybe that's why. I don't know, but it was wild. It was truly surprising.
Students probably didn't go to sleep last night.
True.
Yeah,
True. They were here early.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that, though, because as someone who's not originally from Athens, and I've probably been to maybe 5 games in the entire time that I've lived here because I'm always working a game, so I don't necessarily go to the games. And, it was all I've always heard, and even the few that I've been to, it's just more of that, not necessarily Atlanta Braves crowd, but, a only loud at a very few instances kind of deal. And, this is kind of a constant theme coming up now recently with big games at home where the crowd is truly affecting the game. Auburn last year, I know Ben mentioned earlier, Auburn last year, Notre Dame, these bigger games at home now where you've got a crowd that knows that it can impact the game.
This game was the same as Auburn last year. That's one of my takes. If people watched the Auburn game last year, it was the same thing. Georgia just beat the crap out of them. And, I mean, the fans had, I thought, the biggest impact on that game last year, and this year was similar.
Yeah, I thought Arkansas was a mess. They're a team that can't play behind too. They haven't played behind all season.
No,
and when they got behind 7-0, and then they had the offensive false starts on that first drive, and it was just, it was over then, basically.
Basically, I think you're 100% right.
But Arkansas is built in the trenches. That's the big thing. That's how Pittman built his teams, and they just got destroyed there. That's got to be the biggest takeaway.
They're not 5-star built.
They're not 5-star built. And also, the
scheme different.
Was bad. The scheme was bad because they did not adjust. You cannot sit in that same thing. When you're getting ran over and you sit in the same scheme, that's as bad right there. You can't sit in a 3-3-5 the whole game. You can't do that.
I want to know why I pay some of you guys for analysis when Malik Herring just nailed it in one tweet. I can just get him on there. After that first touchdown run, he's like, 3-man front inside the 5-yard line. Run the damn ball. I was like, okay.
No, all right.
That's all the analysis we need right there because he nailed it. And then they didn't change. What was the hesitation?
That surprised me from Odom too, because he kind of prides himself on being a multiple defense and playing. And apparently last week when in some of their practice reports was they were practicing 4-man fronts. Well, you didn't see any of them today, so I don't know what they're practicing for.
Yeah, well, that's a good point. All right, Bearded Dog says Lane Kiffin should be anywhere near a clipboard. That's true. Lane's about to use his burner flip phone to call his Tuscaloosa comfort girl. That's rude. That's just rude. That's funny.
I saw they told everyone to get the popcorn ready at the start of the game.
Yes, he did.
I hate that I missed that.
Threw the headset up too. So Jed, was Travis Hunter being there a bit of a surprise?
It was. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, I mean, yeah, I guess you can kind of say so. I know we were kind of talking about it last night. Would he? Wouldn't he? We were kind of hearing both, and then obviously, he got hurt. But it's one of those things where you look at how this season is going. Georgia's looked the way they've looked. Florida State's looked the way they've looked. Their game was on this box. Obviously, Florida State doesn't look great right now, so it only makes sense for him to listen at the very least to what Georgia and Kirby Smart and Will Muschamp, all those guys have to say. Especially being right down the road. So, I mean, short answer, no. I don't think it was a surprise, even though we were kind of going back and forth a little bit on it last night.
And then wasn't the Burden kid at the Missouri game? Did I see that?
I know.
Oh, they look bad. They're bad.
They look really bad. Whether he was there or not, that's not a good. That did not help them in their pursuit of that guy at all.
That was pathetic.
Hey,
so one question I'd ask to Trent would be, if Georgia were to get Travis Hunter, what would you do? Would you put him at corner? Would you put him at receiver? Or would you play him both ways? That's $1 million question there.
I'd bring him in as an athlete. I think he would probably come in as a wide receiver, but Kirby and his defensive-minded person would probably try to flip him over. But I think he'd be a wide receiver.
I think he'd be a wide receiver. His frame looks more wide receiver to me.
I mean, when I found out he broke his ankle last night, I mean, his ankle's like this big around. But, but I mean, he can fly. I mean, he can play. He's the best probably football player that I've seen in the state of Georgia this year. But he's Florida State commit. And the only thing that's surprising about him showing up on campus, this is what's surprising, is a couple weeks ago he told media that he wasn't listening to any other coaches. And I think that's what makes it interesting, because you don't pop up on a campus if you're not at least talking to a coach. So.
Yeah, that's we hear that a lot, so the people will leave them alone. I'm not talking to people, but still getting those texts. Wake up in the morning, hey, have a great day at school. Love Nick Saban. Oh, that's nice. Hey, happy birthday. Love Kirby Smart.
And it wouldn't surprise me at all if Georgia
in your basketball game, Dabo's winning.
It wouldn't surprise me at all if Georgia didn't check up on him last night, to him personally, after he got hurt. And that kind of stuff, it leads to these unexpected visits. And
if the first person that you hear from says, hey, get well fast, get well soon, is Kirby Smart or Dan Lanning or Jamila Day. Sometimes it matters. I'm not saying that happened in this situation, but the fact they reach out, the fact that they know you got injured and they're looking into it. To me, bigger physically, but what about what did you think that Big Bear saw when sitting up in the stands?
I mean, he's been at 2 games. He's been at the Clemson game and he's been at the Arkansas game. What else could you see from that D line that wouldn't want to be a part of it?
He's seen Georgia play 2 top 10 teams and has seen the defense allow 3 points.
And what?
Good point. Hey, you need to tweet that out. That's awesome.
48 combined rushing yards or something like that?
Yeah, and 7 sacks against Clemson and 4 today.
He's been to Georgia 5 times since visits opened up. That's still telling. That one's not over.
And guess who won't be there next year? Jordan Davis and Devontae White.
Yeah.
Don't forget Jordan Rochester.
I thought you were about to say Bear.
Yeah. And I mean, he's, he would come in with his buddy Gunnar Stockton. They're pretty tight.
Wasn't Kojo there today, Jed?
To be completely honest with you, I'm not sure. It's hard to see in the press box.
That's also telling.
See, this is why we don't pay Jed.
See, exactly. This is why.
That's the one question, and he's useless.
I heard Julian Rochester is using his medical red shirt this year. He's coming back.
Senior
the 430th year. Yeah,
a super senior.
AARP red shirt.
I mean, he should have a PhD by now.
So who all did we have on official visits to watch that? Because that had to be impressive.
Official?
Yeah.
Julian and Kamari.
2 DBs, I think.
Explain who that are to people who don't follow recruiting.
Julian Humphrey, DB out of Texas, committed to Florida, and Kamari Wilson out of Florida, and he's been a Georgia target. Georgia's kind of been that team to beat since probably spring.
So getting Julian Humphrey in like you said, he's out of Texas, but he's committed to Florida. What does this do for his recruitment?
That'll be interesting to see because he's been kind of flirting with Georgia, and it's he's continued to say the right things to Florida and be right there and tell them he's fully committed, be recruiting for Florida. But when you're flirting with another team and then you come to an atmosphere like this, you kind of it'll be interesting to see what he has to say after the visit, because there's definitely some love there between the two.
And Blaine told me during the game Blaine was out on the field and he said he saw Humphrey sitting either right in front of or right behind Malachi Starks and his family, and he saw them having a back and forth during the game. And obviously Starks, the guy has been committed to Georgia, loves Georgia, recruiting for Georgia, all that kind of stuff. So that's another kind of interesting layer to that kind of dynamic too.
So also, Roddy, but before you talk there, I was also going to say Shamar Stewart and I think LT Overton were there. So that's two other guys where you're like, Overton's top, and James Smith. That's like 2 top 7 guys in 2023. And then you got Shamar Stewart, who's one of the best players in the country there. And he hasn't even used his official yet. So to watch D-line just totally shut down Arkansas, top 8 team who those guys are all interested in A&M, and A&M could not come. A&M lost by double digits to this team last week. That's a big selling point for Georgia.
Can't forget about Michael Williams either.
Yep.
So how does the transitive property work out there, Brent? When
that's what I was thinking with A&M and Arkansas. So if we beat Arkansas by 37 and they beat them, I'm going to hop it off.
All right.
Yeah,
hey, Brent,
I got to go.
Enjoy. We'll talk to you later.
I got to go right so I can maybe get paid this week.
No, we're going to have that. All right. I'll tell you what, while I have the 3 of you on here, let's get some final thoughts and we'll wrap this show up. Give me your final thoughts there, Ben, on the game.
Well, I just think going forward, I just don't think Georgia's got holes if they're healthy. I really don't. And think if now the fact that the run game's getting better, once they get JT healthy and maybe the pass catcher's healthy, this is the most balanced offense I've seen out of Georgia, which could be a really scary thing, which could help them get a run. And we know what the defense is, probably the best Kirby's had.
All right. And then give me your final thoughts there, Trent.
Yeah, I thought Georgia dominated on the line of scrimmage. I thought they had the run game was a lot better. They still didn't break the big run, but I think James Cook had a 24-yard run. I thought all the backs ran good, ran hard. Who coaches special teams again?
Nobody.
Why can't they get more than 4 guys on the backfield? But they got to get the special team, that part of special teams fixed. I thought Camarda had an off day punting. Podlesny had a great day.
He had to keep redoing it.
Yeah, all them redos he had to do. Yeah, but overall, I thought dominating performance at every phase of the game. I think they need JT help, especially down the stretch. But Stetson's getting the job done.
Well, let me ask you this, because this is a question that comes up when people complain, and I complain about people complaining because I don't think it's fair. I think there's 2 different standards. That's always, it's my pet peeve in media. It's my pet peeve in dealing with people. It's just a pet peeve. If the ball's overthrown, well, it's Stetson is inaccurate. If the JT overthrows it, well, he's too strong. It's like, okay. If the ball's batted line of scrimmage, Stetson's too short. If ball's batted, well, the defensive line jumped the route. Okay, it's never even, and it drives me nuts. But the number one issue when I see people complaining about Stetson Bennett back there is they don't think that you can beat an Alabama or a Florida with Stetson Bennett. did you see something today that makes you see that maybe they're right?
Well, Roddy, first off, remember, every quarterback is either a bigger or smaller Stetson Bennett, according to you, first off. And second, we haven't seen him beat Bama yet, so I understand why people are having out. He looked terrible in the second half against them last year, where if Georgia would have just ran the ball, I still think Georgia could have been really competitive with Bama last year. I just think Stetson – the question was today, which is why I was confused, why didn't Auburn come forward? Because Stetson Bennett's totally different than JT throwing the ball deep down the field. I think it's still a question mark, but I think Stetson could probably beat you everybody but Bama this year. You're capable enough to win with them versus everyone but Bama this year.
Yeah,
can JT beat him?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, so I mean, I'm not disagreeing with you. I just want to know what your take is, because that's what I hear is like, when people get mad, they're like, look, that's not that I dislike Stetson. It's just I think JT needs to be in there so that we can beat Bama. And you may be right. I just want to get both of y'all's thoughts on it.
And I don't know. Is that, I think Stetson's good. I think he's got that gunslinger mentality, that Brett Favre mentality, which is kind of but I mean, he's 2 years in a row. He's had good years. I mean, he's he didn't beat Florida and Alabama last year. I think that's what it's being based off of. Yeah. But the only thing that I see as far as in their game is JT reads downfield a little better, and it might be the height issue, and it might be I don't know, but I think JT reads downfield because Stetson had a couple receivers break open today downfield that I thought he could have hit, but I mean he didn't throw it up for grabs. So.
There's one he tried to throw it to Brock Bowers, who was covered up, and he had could have got an easy one to Kenny Mack in the flat and gotten a first down on a 3rd and 5. And I'm just like, oh, you missed that one. But we see quarterbacks miss stuff like that all the time. So to me, to your point, Georgia needs to get JT healthy. I want JT healthy. I want JT in there. I want to see what he can do. I want to see this offense have all of its weapons available. I want to see Arik Gilbert healthy and out there on the field. I want to see Dominic Blaylock healthy and out there. I want may the best man win. And what we've seen when they're healthy is JT's the best man. So get him out there.
And I think what's more important is if you have two that you can count on, you don't know what you can count on behind them. And two you can count on is better than one you can count on, especially with injuries these days. So
I agree. And to me, if this game had been a lot closer, maybe then we would have seen more passing, chuck it downfield, make them a little more honest. But there were points in that 3rd and 4th quarter where everybody knew Georgia was going to run it, and wasn't a damn thing Arkansas could do to stop it. They just went out and leaned on them. They even brought in the second team, and they were able to move the ball on them. So if you can do that, that bodes well. I don't care who your quarterback is. And we hadn't seen that power running game since the Clemson game. We damn sure saw it today.
How many blocks is it legal to how many guys can you block with one player on one play? Jalen Carter had 3 blocks on that one play?
He took out 3 because there was one whiff. Was it Owen Condon that missed?
They ran that same play last weekend, I believe. I believe it was last weekend, and Carter whiffed on the block.
Yeah,
but he didn't whiff this time.
Mm-hmm. Right, he took out 3 guys. Our Film Don't Lie series is going to be fantastic.
Yes,
they break down the film. Those guys do a fantastic job. You need to check out Film Don't Lie. We'll have it Monday morning and probably Tuesday morning. They usually split up an offense and a defensive section, and you need to check out what they did. As we wrap up, quick thoughts about Auburn, guys.
Their offense is going to be – if Tank Bigsby doesn't have – if Georgia shuts him down, Auburn's going to have no offense at all. Their quarterbacks are terrible. Their O-line is terrible. Their receivers, I'm sorry. They're just not that good on offense. Their defense, though, is okay. I think they got good linebackers in McClain and Popo. Their defense might be able to get fits at times, but their offense can't do anything. I'm sorry. They just cannot.
I know a lot of people complaining about Stetson Bennett, but you could be Auburn.
Yeah.
That is true.
Stetson Bennett would be Auburn's best quarterback right now, hands down.
Yeah, well, and he beat Auburn last year when they were ranked.
Yeah.
And he beat Arkansas last year, and he beat them again this year. So I expect them to blow Auburn's doors off to a degree. This team is playing lights out. I just hope they can keep up that intensity. And because when you get on the road, it gets a lot tougher. I know people don't think that. They think, what's the difference? It is a completely different game when you get on the road. Be comfortable here, have that whole team cheering for you. get all those false start penalties on the other team, backing them up. Well, when you're getting false start penalties and you're looking at 2nd and 15 or 3rd and 8, because you went from 3rd and 3 and you had you had all your plays called for 3rd and 3. And now you have to switch everything up in formations and personnel because it's 3rd and 8. That makes for a long day. So it should be very interesting to see how that goes down next Saturday. 5 games in, next week's the midpoint of the season. Deep South's oldest rivalry. Should be a hell of a contest. Be sure to tune in after that game, whatever time it's going to be, for the Georgia post-game overreaction show here, the POS, with our boys Trent and Ben. And maybe this time Paul won't have to duck out, big coward.
Where'd he go?
I think he went to a wedding.
Yeah, he's deactivated tonight. Don't think we'll be hearing much from him.
Somebody planned a wedding in the fall.
Oh.
I don't know. We're going to have to pull their Southern card. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. And all you folks there in the victory party at Roddy's house. Come on, Ray. I'll see you then. And thanks to Chuck for tuning in, and Tristan West and the Green Soldier. Lots of great comments from you folks. We really appreciate it. And we will see y'all next week. Y'all take care.